Today I want to tell you about 5 things you need to know about Oklahoma's recruiting event called the ChampU BBQ, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today I want to talk about 5 things you need to know about the 2019 ChampU BBQ, and I wrote them down because I think they're that important, but I also want to kind of expand on a few of them. So let's get to it. The first thing is the ChampU BBQ has become a staple for the Oklahoma Sooners recruiting calendar, right? The event is the biggest recruiting activity the Sooners host during the summer. Recruits and their families across 3 recruiting classes are invited to participate in the day of festivities. And that has been described to me as like a family reunion. So it really is like a barbecue. I mean, there were even pictures taken of Dennis Simmons and Roy Manning cooking brisket, sausage, meats. Nate Anderson got pied in the face. Seth McGowan had a really good time. Lots of recruits from the 2020, 2021, and 2022 cycles were invited to show up with their families to take it in as like an unofficial, which kind of gets me into number 2. The event is invitation only and serves as an unofficial visit to the university in most instances. While fans have come to see this as an event as synonymous with commitments coming from at least a handful of recruits on the weekend of the event, that's not necessarily the case every year. So we have yet to see any eyes at the time of this recording, which is like Monday morning before my 9 a.m. show, the RJ Young Show on the Sports Animal, KYAL here in Tulsa. But I don't really expect to see a lot of eyes, and there's a number of reasons for that, not the least of which is there are 15 commits in the 2020 class. And, figure that number around 25, so you're about 2/3 of the way full already. The 2021 class is going to be phenomenal. It's already extremely talented. There's lots of guys on campus from there. I'm going to get to them in a second. But remember that media is not invited to this thing. It is an unofficial, and it takes place on a very important part of the year, which is the end of the quiet period going into the dead period coming out of, we'll get to it. Check it out. So with 15 commits in the current cycle, OU's 2020 class is more than 2/3 full, as I said, right? And it's all about retaining those commitments. It's all about building relationships with new guys, and we're going to get to some of those. So there were 10 commits that were able to make it to this event of the 15. That's a pretty good margin. Guys that I know didn't show up that everybody wants to know about are Ryan Watts, who's out of the country, and Jason McClellan, who had a thing come up. It's not a big deal. My buddy Brandon Drum has a write-up and report over there on OUinsider.com where I wrote about this event too. You can read more about it. It's really not that big a deal. But if you think it's a big deal, go check it out. Go help yourself feel better about the whole situation. I'm sure we'll talk about it on the Young and Drum podcast later on. Now, I talked to a few folks. One of them was Brendan Walker, and his quote to me was, "I loved it. It's by far the most fun thing I've done on any type of visit," which is a really good thing, not just because they had a good time, but because it's still continuing to keep this energy of being a really fun and exciting event. It's the kind of thing that recruits they're coming to look forward to. And that's a really difficult thing to pull off for an unofficial visit. Like, that's a big get. So it's a big get. It's nice to have in your pocket if you're Lincoln Riley, which kind of gets me to number 4. Lincoln Riley and his staff have worked hard to make this event memorable, even inviting former OU President Jim Gallagly to last year's event, right? And the effort should be noted because the recruiting calendar dictates the quiet period ends on July 31st, which is my birthday. Early birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. I'm going to have a good time on that day. The dead period begins on August 1st and lasts through August 31st. Now, the quiet period is defined by the NCAA as that period of time when it is permissible to make in-person recruiting contacts only on the member institution's campus, right? So you have to come to Oklahoma to be recruited by Oklahoma or get offered by Oklahoma. No in-person, off-campus recruiting contact or evaluations may be made during the quiet period. Now, the dead period is a time when, what did I write down? Oh, I wrote this down. It's not permissible to make an in-person recruiting contact. Let me see. There are no officials, there are no unofficials by prospective student athletes. Basically means everybody keeps to themselves because August 1st through the 31st is also the period for which everybody's doing preseason camp, not just at the college football level, but also at the high school football level, right? So it's really important to just prepare for the thing that you're being recruited for, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. And I actually like the way that the recruiting calendar is built out by the NCAA. I think it's one of the things they do really well, in that it's not just building in time for the student athletes to be okay, the high school kids to be okay, but coaches need vacation time too, right? And their staff, more importantly, their administrative staff, their external staff, their support staff needs some time off too. So they get to take a mini vacation if that's what they do. Lincoln Riley is fond of posting photos of himself going fishing, playing golf, doing the things I think, old white coaches do. So the fifth thing that I think you need to know: Oklahoma hosted prospects on both sides of the ball at this year's event, including Alfred Collins, Travian Ford, Noah Orenze, Justin Jackson, Quay Mays, Kendrick Blackshear, Ethan Downs, and Gentry Williams. Now, Williams is going to be a guy to keep your eye on. He's a 2022 athlete out of Booker T, where he plays quarterback. Booker T. Washington in Tulsa. He is the son of OU alumni and the reigning 6A state 400-meter champ. This dude dropped 47.70 in the state championships earlier this summer, which for a true freshman, a freshman in high school, is flat out flying. Like, that's the kind of guy that could actually have Olympic speed if that's the route he chooses to go. Now, I know there are folks that think that football is very much in play, but as fast as he is, my goodness, after what I saw in the United States Track and Field Championship just this weekend, Gentry could be that guy. He could end up being good enough to compete for an Olympic spot. Not next year for the 2020 games, obviously, but in 6 years from now, I wouldn't put that past him. He's that good and he's that fast. It just depends on whether or not he wants to focus on football or running track. And his quote to me was, "It was really good to be out there. He enjoyed it and his family enjoyed it. And that's a good thing," right? So getting guys like Gentry Williams on campus, who's class of 2022, all the way back to 2020 for rising seniors, this is good. This is awesome. This is what you want if you're Lincoln Riley. This is what you want if you're executive director of football recruiting, Annie Hansen. This is what you work for. And this period is a time when a lot of recruiting events are held, right? Because it's the last week in which you could do it. So it's becoming a thing for everybody to have their own version of the barbecue. Texas A&M, Texas, LSU. Anybody of substance, especially in the Power 5, is doing this, and getting that kid on the campus with his family usually is a good bet for winning his recruitment, because it's an unofficial and you got to want it to be out there. So I always look at this event a little harder than I look at camp series, because kids are invited to camp so they can earn offers, but also so they can get more exposure for their football activity like in June. Now we're talking about, do I like the coaches? Do my parents like the coaches? How do I feel about the campus? You get to sit down and have a good, strong conversation with these coaches that are recruiting you, and you get to figure out a little bit more about what you like and what you don't like about the schools that you are choosing to pick if you're fortunate to be in one of these positions where you're invited to one of these invitation-only unofficial recruiting events. All right, that is it for me. Doses.